Thank you so much for the opportunity, and it's really my pleasure to be here today. And I was asking myself when I received the invitation that when I was told that there will be an audience of 400 to 500 people, I was saying to myself, are they captive? Captive audiences? People are all there of their own volition in the room, and it's a great opportunity. But who am I to talk about it? But then I said that, well, I have had my own share of success and failures. Possibly, you will learn more from my own failures than my success, which I have had so little. And I am personally very energized to be here, because I was in this position, somewhat like you. I think most of you are starting off your graduation programs, and I started mine about 35 years back. So about 35 years back in the year 1988, I was like you, in your same position, possibly sitting in an auditorium and listening to somebody else. Sense of deja vu. And what experience do I have of Gen Z, as all of you would be called? Well, I have a reasonable amount of experience. Both my daughters are Gen Z, and it has been a great learning experience for me and my wife to bring them up. So, whatever little experience I have of Gen Z, I know only this much, that Gen Z has very short span of attention. So, I will try to keep this talk as short as possible. I have been given an allocated time, but I think I will finish much before that. And what I know of Gen Z is that they normally have very short attention spans because you are accustomed to, the phones, WhatsApps. But I know that Gen Z is very good at imitating. They will imitate your behavior. They don't listen to you, however. And when I am giving this talk, more often than not, I'll be using the phrase he, man. So please understand that I mean no disrespect to anybody else. It will be very tiresome if I keep on saying he or she or others. It will be very tiresome. So when I say man is mortal, you have to understand that women are not immortal either. So that is one disclaimer that I'm giving at the beginning itself. And some of you would be, there will be some internal noise in your minds. Why is this man who is of our father's age, what is he going to talk about? Is he going to give any advice? Or is he going to say that, well, take life a little easy? If you think that I am telling you that you must enjoy your student life, you are right. And you are wrong as well. I will definitely tell you to enjoy your student life, but that isn't the sum and substance of my talk. Because if I just say that, listen, have fun, and you are not going to get back this time in your life, I won't be able to do much justice to your time that's given to me. So there will be some advice. But remember this, I had gone through it myself. When I was a child, I always used to think that my father knew everything. I always used to think, he was a doctor. So I used to think that he knew everything. But you know what? When I became about 16, 17 years old, a rebellious teen, I felt that my dad knew nothing. Many of you possibly feel the same way. And you are right, you are entitled to it. But as I grew older, then I realized that maybe my dad knew something after all. So my request to all of you would be, that whatever I say, please listen to it. You don't have to accept it. Just listen to it. Try it out in your life. And if it works, well and good. If it doesn't work, you are free to discard it. And when I'm addressing you, I'm very convinced that I'm addressing people, I'm addressing adults. Okay. There is a saying that for those of you who know Sanskrit, they say Lalayat Panchavarsani, Dasavarsani Chataraya, Prapte to Sodasavarse, Putra Vitrapat Acharya. What it means is the following: that you can bring a child with love and affection till the time the child is 5 years old. Beyond 5, the next 10 years, you must guide the child properly. But once the child is 16, you must treat the child as you would treat a friend or an adult. So all of you are adults here in this classroom. When you are here, personally, I have never been part of institutions which used to mandate attendance. Our professors in fact used to say that you are adults. If you wish to come to the classroom, it's your wish. If you don't wish to come to your classroom, that's your wish as well. So I am accustomed to being treated as an adult from the time of my engineering days, and I want to treat you as an adult. So whatever I am saying, I am not talking down to you. I am on an elevated platform so people can see it, but I am not talking down to you. I am talking to you as adult, as a friend. Okay. And I would just say only one thing, that many people in my age group, sometimes say that the younger generation is not what it is supposed to be, they are not this, they are not that. I personally don't believe that. I personally, from my own experience of the youth today, I am very encouraged by their open-mindedness. I am personally very engaged by the kind of awareness that they have. And personally, I think if there is something wrong, it's with my generation. We have possibly not set the right examples for our children. So it is not, I am not here to, say that, that this is what you must do, that is you must do. What I will just talk about are my thoughts, and they carry my conviction. You can be assured that whatever I am telling is something which I have done in my life, so nothing is I'm not preaching in that sense. Okay. So, am I audible now if I step out? Am I audible?
Yes.
May I request? Yeah. So, let me just share with you. I was born in 1970. And the India that we knew at that time was very different. Very different. You see a picture of this. You could easily picture me there, that's my school. In a sense, as I told you, my dad used to work as a government servant, as a doctor, and his job was transferable. So we would go from small semi-urban rural locations having 10,000 people to a town which would have a population of 3 lakhs, not much. So my dad was very careful that he got me admitted to a school of vernacular medium, where the medium of instruction was my mother tongue, Odia. And it wasn't a very prosperous school. We used to, and let's face it, in those days, I will explain it to you data. India of that time was very different from India today. As India another 30 years down the line is very different. Okay. I never wore a pair of shoes other than my sports shoes when I went to school. We used to wear slippers until I reached college. We used to roll our mat and the books, and we used to walk to the school, which is about 3 kilometers away. We used to walk 3 kilometers and go back. Once you reach the school, spread your mat on the floor, sit down, the teacher teaches you, on the blackboard. No fancy equipment, nothing. We had no sports worth talking about until I reached standard 6. But those were the times. It was not a atypical situation. Most of India was that or possibly different. Okay. So good things. Anybody using this today? A 2-in-1 having a tape recorder and a Sony Walkman. Prized position in my time. Yeah. The radio, yeah, of course your grandpa's, correct? So, these are our prized positions. Thank you. Okay. So, well, gentlemen, ladies, it's not my intention to bore you or I have no obligation of entertaining any of you. I am only trying to do justice to what you can do to write your own legacy. Okay? So that's what I try my best to do. If there are people here who are receiving phone calls which are matters of life and death or very important phone calls, please, you have my permission to leave the room, take your call, finish your call and come back. There's no issue. Okay? As I said, I treat all of you as adults. Okay? So I'm not going to preach how you need to behave while you are in this room. So television, there's a pager. Did not last in India for more than 1 year because then the mobile revolution came in. This was the old phone. The mobile, I'll talk about the mobile phone when it came in was almost weighing 1.5 because it could actually kill a man with it. 16 rupees per minute for making a call and 8 rupees a minute for receiving a call. Can you imagine that? It was so costly that I remember when I was working with my first job, Asian Paints, only the regional sales manager and the general manager, sales and marketing used to have mobile phones. Nobody else, none of us lesser mortals were given mobile phones by the company. Things have changed. Technology. Anybody remembers dot matrix printers? Has anybody operated a dot matrix printer? You won't have seen one. You have operated dot matrix printer? Okay, so just one hand here. But you know, the sound that the infernal system makes is crazy. And when you have dot matrix printers that are printing pages by pages, it could create so much of noise that nobody could work anywhere within 20 meters of it. The cards that we used to write, the best looking cards. Ambassador, Premier, Padmini. Ambassador, I'll tell you, I have driven the car myself when I just started learning driving at the age of 18. After driving about 30 kilometers, you develop solid triceps and biceps. It was so difficult. It was worse than driving a truck, I can tell you that. Premier Padmini was marginally better, Contessa was marginally better, and the best looking wheels at that time, unless we were talking about imported Merc, this used to cost about 83,000 bucks in those days. Okay, so those were the times. Okay, so let me talk a little bit about your own country. Okay. Most of you would build your careers within the country. Some of you may build it outside. So this is your story. So, because you will hear always noise, you know, when you open the mainstream media, you will always hear noise, people arguing whether the country is going forward, the country is going backward, somebody will say we have not done this. All that is noise. And this noise will stay. It was there, this kind of discussion whether the country is going forward or going backwards was there 40 years back, it will be today, it will be there for another 30, 40 years. So the key point is, I'll give an example just to show you that when you take a long-term view, you get the correct picture. What I call as a 35 mm to a 37 mm view. Take a look at, so I'm giving an example of the Sensex. So if you look at it, I have plotted the Sensex on the top. When you look at 1 year, what does it tell you? Doesn't tell you much, right? It's going up, it's coming down, right? The first chart. What does it tell you? It's just a volatile rise, right? Whereas this chart that you see, which is from 1st of April 1979 of Sensex, it is 100 to now almost 64,000. 640 times. The stock market has moved about 640 times in the last, how many years? 43 years? Yeah. If somebody is good at maths, you can look at it and calculate. The cumulative average growth rate is around 16%. So if you had put money in the market at that time, it would have become 640 times by now. So when you look at it, all this discussion about the country, the economy, is reflected in the market as well. Some of you who are business students here will read that in the long run, the market is a slave to earnings, which is earnings of the company. So has the country really grown? So let me talk about India's GDP, the gross domestic product of India, which is a measure of the value of all goods and services in the country. In 1970, this was just about $0.06 trillion. Today, it is $3.4 trillion. Okay? $3.4 trillion. And what is more important is the per capita GDP. In those days, when I talked about 1970s or when the time was born, the average per capita income in the country was about $112, not much. Even today it's not much, but it is still $2,400. And in those days, if you look at the GDP which we have plotted, why am I showing all this is primarily I want you people to believe that the country has made genuine progress in the last couple of years and the future is indeed bright. I'm just trying to give you enough data around it, because otherwise it just appears like a feel-good talk. So if you look at the data, you will see very clearly that the inflection point started somewhere around 2002. The process, I remember this very clearly, Dr. Chandrasekhar will also recall when we were studying our MBA program at IIM Bangalore together. There's a lot of debate at that time in the campus on whether the process of liberalization, whether the process of integrating India to the global economy is good. People talked about whether it will be really good for India or it will not be. Okay? And when the process got initialized in 91, 92, but the results started coming only after 10 or 11 years. We could see the impact of it only after about 10 years. In 2002 is the time when we first started using it. And I can explain this is very practical. I'll tell you. When we started our job, I remember my first job. My salary was 5,400 rupees a month. I remember this, I still have the payslip today. Okay? And we used to be paid 800 rupees by cash as conveyance allowance. 6,200 bucks. And the salary remained more or less the same ballpark for the next 9-10 years. It's only in 2000 that we started, 2001, 2002, that we started seeing MNCs coming in. The Indian companies also had to match up to the MNCs in case in the salaries, because otherwise they were losing talent. What happens when you have global companies coming in? Their search for talent is global. So they would start paying better, and then the Indian companies were forced to match up to it. So things really started moving from 2002 onwards, and the process is still continuing. For students who are interested in economics, the GDP has three broad components: agriculture, services, and industry. So, in 1960, at the time of independence, roughly, agriculture used to contribute about 52% of the GDP, services used to contribute about 29%, and manufacturing and industry used to contribute about 19%. In the last couple of years, if you look at it, what happened is that services industry, of which IT is one aspect, has moved from 29 to 53, and agriculture has declined from 52 to 19. Industry, which is manufacturing, has improved but not dramatically. It has improved from 19 to 28. And that is where you hear talk, when you hear talks about, when you read in the newspapers today, people are talking about China plus one. Anybody familiar with that? China plus one. Which is that, can India be the next manufacturing hub? And I think it is important. It is important because it is important for engineers, it is important for people who are going to work. Remember this, that the economy has to be aligned to the skill set of its youth. Today, we don't have enough youth who can actually work in the services sector. The services sector, banking, financial services, IT requires a certain amount of skill set. And not every youth, I'm not talking about you. You are a privileged lot. You are privileged. You belong to a top 3-4% of this country's population. Some of you would have had the best education, some of you would have had tremendous amount of parental support. Okay? But there aren't people like that. So, unless manufacturing and infrastructure grows, it will be very difficult to provide employment for our youth. Every year we are having close to about 1.1 crore youth who are entering the workforce. As a country, our average age is close to 28. Most other countries are 38 or 44, 45. So we are a young country. So unless we provide that kind of manufacturing and infrastructure related opportunities, we won't be able to gainfully employ our youth. Okay? There aren't enough jobs for mechanical engineers, chemical engineers, or civil engineers because we are not grown our manufacturing and our infrastructure. There really aren't that many number of jobs available. Okay? But all of that can change. And I'm hoping that it changes. There are a lot of performance linked incentives, production linked incentives for industries. People are talking about China plus one, manufacturing being grown. So I'm optimistic that things will be much better. And here I'm really talking about the country to you because, you know, when in 1950, so 1970 when I was born, the average life expectancy was 46.1 years. So the fact that I am born in 1970 and I am still talking here and addressing you obviously shows that I am somewhere to the right of the bell curve. Okay? The average expectancy was 46.1. You know why? The infant mortality in those days was 146 per 1,000 births, which means if 1,000 children are born, 146 children will die before they are 1 year old. It could be because of illness, it could be because of malnutrition, it could be anything else. Large percentage, isn't it? 15%. In 1970, 15% of infants would die before the age of 1. You look at the maternal mortality, 753 women would die out of 1 lakh who were giving childbirth. Huge numbers. All these have thankfully fallen. Now the infant mortality is around 30, maternal mortality. If somebody were to ask me, the infant mortality is not just a small statistic for me. My sister died at the age of 10 months because of an illness, which could have been treated today. I'm telling you this, the illness which took my sister away at the age of 10 months, had she been born today, she would have been alive. Because there is treatment, there is surgical treatment available for it in India today. In those days, it was available only in America. And somebody in India who is earning $112 a month cannot afford to send the child to America for a surgery. So imagine the kind of helplessness that a parent feels. And this is being felt by many people in our country today. You are a privileged lot. The reason why I'm talking to you is because I think all of you individually can do something about it when you start working, when you start becoming a professional. All of you can do something about it. I'll talk about it a little later. The male literacy, when India got its independence, only 27% of males were literate and 9% of women were literate. Today, it is 82% and 66, which means 82% of men are literate and 66% of women are literate. The women have definitely, improved literacy, but the disparity between the man and woman, between a son and a daughter, is still existing in many parts of the country today. That needs to change. And we need to make a change. Okay. So now, all of you are here at North Cap University. The professors will do their best to make sure that they impart whatever knowledge they can. Okay? But remember this. I am just giving an example of Ben Hogan, who is a very famous golfer. He had very famously said once that if you can't outplay them, outwork them. So what it means is that when you go and play the sports, you realize that there are some people who are much more talented than you. You might be an Ivan Lendl playing tennis. You will always find a John McEnroe opposite you, or you will have a Stefanos Tsitsipas or a Alcaraz against you, who is tremendously talented. So does it mean that there is no scope for anybody else? No. As somebody said, that somebody can outplay me, but nobody will outwork me. What it means is that I will practice on all my shots. I'll practice, my drop shots. I'll practice my volleys. I'll practice so much that whatever little deficiency I have, I will still overcome it by sheer hard work. So I'm telling this to you. Okay, I'll give you a story. I'll narrate a story out of Mahabharata. There, does anybody remember that for Draupadi's Swayamvar, when Karna came out to pick up the bow, what was he told? That who are you? Whose son are you? Right? Right? So Karna at that time had said in very powerful terms that Daivayattam Pule Janma Madayattam Chaporusham. What it means is that who is my father, who are my parents, or what is my social status is a matter of fate. But my ability belongs to me. So people, all the people in this room, we all don't come from the same background. We come from different backgrounds. We may have been born differently, we may have been born to different economic strata, we may have born to different circumstances. But what we can do is completely up to us. So, the same North Cap University, everybody, while the teachers, the professors will do their best, it is up to you to what you can do. It is up to you completely to take whatever best you can, what the university has to offer, because that is in your hands, nobody else. Even when you go for your placements, students on campuses are always worried about placements. They ask this question, that what do I need to talk about? When somebody is coming for placement, what are they looking for? They see whether the student has been able to apply himself or herself. So, can you demonstrate to people that when the situation arises, when you are working, will you be able to apply yourself? Is there evidence? In your own life, have you ever applied yourself? You have to answer this question yourself, nobody else will answer it for you. The second most important skill. Remember, when you are here in this room, you are preparing for the world outside. You are still told till so far. You haven't done what I call Gen Z says adulting. You haven't done adulting. You will do adulting once you get out of this, and you will realize it's no fun. Okay? Many kids would always, I'm saying it from my experience. At one time, when I was a student, I used to feel, oh shit, there's so much of work. Okay, there is this professor who is killing me with assignments. There is, this batchmates of mine who are not doing enough when it comes to their projects. It's so much of work. But once I started working, once I got to the real world, you know what? I always say, can I go back and be a student once again? So I'm saying, please enjoy your student life, but at the same time, apply yourself. And the second most important thing is, I can't talk about this enough, communication skills. Because no matter what you do, how brilliant you are, at some point of time, when you are going to lead an entity, you are going to lead a commercial organization, you may lead an educational organization, you may lead a commercial establishment, you may lead a research factory, whatever you do, you will always have people working under you. And you will always have people that you need to convince. So communication skills are extremely important. How do you deal with presentation? You're dealing with conflicts, dealing with people who are aggressive, people who come at you very strongly. How do you negotiate? All of these are part of communication skills. So make no mistake about it. It is an important skill. That's something which I can thank my dad. He's not here today. I lost him 3 years back. He was the one who pushed me to debates and public speaking when I was about 5, 6 years old. I used to resent that. I literally used to, shake in my boots, rather the lack of it. I never had boots. I used to shake, when I wanted to speak to people. But it's a skill that somebody has learned over the years. It's important. If you have to convince anybody, you need to have this. I'm not taking that you all to come down, right? There's a little bit more. Okay. So let me say this. There are 400 people here. Tomorrow, when you go and you are in an organization where you're working, okay, you would have situations where there will be 10 or 12 of you in one room, and the discussions will go on for 4 to 6 hours. You are supposed to listen to others' point of view. You are supposed to articulate your point of view, and you are supposed to be attentive for those 4 to 6 hours. That is the real world. Okay? And if you struggle today to hold your attention for 20 minutes, 40 minutes, 1 hour, and unless you practice it, you will not be able to do it in real life. In real life, there will be situations where you will be expected to be focused, attentive for 4 to 6 hours at a stretch. So that is the practice. So today is a good time to practice. Not today, tomorrow in your classrooms. The world will not owe you anything. The world will not clap when you enter, leave this classroom and go out and face the world. Nobody is going to sing praises to you. The world is a very different place. It does not exist for you. So, learn to apply yourself. Learn how you don't lose focus even if the discussion is going on for a long period of time. So, but let me say all this. I have talked a lot about, studies, about communication. But let me also say this. Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson were one day camping. Okay? They were lying, inside their tent. Suddenly at night, Sherlock Holmes wakes up and tells his, friend, Dr. Watson, do you look up and look at the sky? What does it tell you? So Watson looks at it, says, I see lots of stars. Yes, but what does it tell you? So Dr. Watson says, astronomically tells me that there are millions of galaxies and possibly billions of planets. Astrologically, I observe that the Saturn is in Leo. Horologically, I deduce that the time is approximately 3:15. Theologically, I can see that God is all powerful, that we are small and insignificant. And meteorologically, I suspect that we will have a good chance of rain tomorrow. You know what Watson tells him? Like what Sherlock Holmes tells him? Dr. Watson, you are an idiot. Somebody has stolen our tent. The reason why you can see so many stars is because somebody has stolen our tent. So, no matter whatever be you are leaning, astronomical, astrological, or theological, whatever, we must be pragmatic. Common sense. Common sense is not that common, but that's something which is very, very important when we have to be very practical. Now, there are people here, whether you like it or you don't like it, at some point of time in your life, you will be thrust into a leadership position, which means you are expected to lead a set of people. Okay? So my question is to everybody in this room, does anybody know what a leader is? People will answer in different ways. Okay? But there's only one answer. A leader is someone who has followers, right? How many people in this room at some point of time want to lead? Can I have just a show of hands? How many of you want to lead people at some point of time? It could be 5, 6 people, 10 people, doesn't matter. Doesn't need to be 1,000. Okay, so many hands. Okay. So let me ask you this question. A leader is someone who has followers, right? Without followers, can you be a leader? No. You need to have followers, right? So ask yourself this question. You don't have to answer it to me. You just ask yourself, what is it in me which would encourage other people to follow me? Is the question clear? What is in me that will make others want to follow me? If you don't have an answer to that question today, doesn't matter. Work on yourself for the next 4 or 5 years. I'm sure that you will be able to build some traits in you which are so noteworthy that people would want to follow you. Let me give an example. I had a boss in my organization. I'll tell you what I admire about him. There are so many things that I didn't like about him also. Okay? But I'll tell you what I used to admire. He was a very hard-working guy. He would be typically be the first one to reach the office and the last one to leave the office. And mind you, he was not a shirker. It's not as if he is in the office and he is spending his time in idle talk or what we said cooler side talk. No. When he is in office, the entire 10 hours which is spending is entirely thinking about the organization. And he had a razor sharp memory. No matter what you would have told him 15 days back, he would recall each and every element. Now, that man may have 5 deficiencies, but that is one trait of his which I personally admire. I would admire the fact that he would be willing to walk that extra mile always. So, I'm not saying that everybody needs to be a clone of that person, but you must have something which is unique. So now, as Mahatma Gandhi had said, only he can be a leader who never loses hope. A leader is someone who is a dealer in hope. I can think of another gentleman who was again a leader from history, Napoleon Bonaparte. Napoleon Bonaparte was a leader who with 35,000 soldiers conquered Egypt. He had conquered Alexandria and then marched on to Cairo. And when he was addressing his soldiers, 35,000 of them, just 35,000 people. You are in a different part of the world, you are in Africa, and you are marshalling your troops of 35,000. What does Napoleon Bonaparte tell his soldiers? That from the height of these pyramids, 40 centuries are looking on you. The 40 centuries, the 4,000-year-old civilization at that point of time, they are looking at you as to how you are going to fight the battle today. And a leader is one who will always keep his fears to himself. Always keep yours. I will always advise these gentlemen and ladies, always keep your worst fears to yourself. Never ever show that. You will always come across situations where you will find that things are not going the way. You will always have doubts, you will always have fears, but never ever show your fear. Always be positive. Okay. So when Napoleon Bonaparte used to march into the battle and there are bullets flying all across, okay, when he would ride into the hell of bullets, he will always say that the bullet that will kill Napoleon Bonaparte has not been cast. You think he believed that? No. He knew that a bullet can kill him. But if he shows that he is afraid, what message is he going to give to his people? So we always say that, listen, the bullet that will kill Napoleon Bonaparte has not been cast. So his army, his team was fearless. And it was so fearless that people used to think that Napoleon Bonaparte has an army of devils and not human beings. So when they finally lost in the Battle of Waterloo and the French prisoners were marched in the streets of London, many a respectable Englishmen would come and lift the frock coats of the French soldiers to see if those fellows had tails. Because they had that reputation. And mind you, your reputation will always, I'm telling you today, your reputation will never be built on what you say, but what you do and how you behave. So build your own reputation. At times, that's the only thing that you have. Last but not the least, learn as if you were to live forever. I'm telling you this, nobody has all the answers. I have worked in many organizations and trust me, I did not have all the answers at that point of time. I can narrate, when I started working with ICICI Bank, I did not know banking very well. Okay? So what did I do? I had to learn it. Where do I learn it? I learned it on the job. I learned it from my colleagues who came from public sector banks and who had spent 15, 20 years in banking. There was no shame in walking up to a colleague and saying that, listen, I don't understand this very well. So can you tell me how can I train myself? So I read a lot of books. I went through internet. I did a lot of Google and I found the answer. So all of you today belong to a time when all answers are available, right? Answers are never an issue because you have your Google, you have your chat GPT, so you will have answers. So in today's world, the value that you create is not by the answers, but by the questions you ask. So to ask questions and to learn, please remember that when you get out of the engineering colleges or law school or your BBA program, you will not know everything. Trust me, you won't know everything. Okay? But if you take the approach that I will learn as I go along, you will do just fine. There are law students here. Okay? So here the judge is telling the lawyer that ignorance of the law is no excuse. So the lawyer says, I didn't know that either. So somebody who has come out of law school doesn't know everything. Just 2 days back, I was playing with a lawyer. Okay, he's a very successful lawyer in Delhi. He has been practicing law for the last 37 years. A very successful lawyer. And I asked him, because I was aware that I'm going to come and speak to students who are doing law. So I asked him that what will be your advice to students of law? He said, ask them not to take the courses very seriously. I said, listen, I've heard that, that's good. So nobody should take themselves so seriously, that's fine. But what is important? What does it take to be a successful lawyer? What do you think he said? Did he say intelligence? No. What he said is that, Shubhashish, there is no shortcut for hard work. Because as lawyers, we have to do a lot of research. We have to read so many books and we have to do so much of legal research, either online or by going to the old law journals. So there is just no shortcut. So if I have a hearing in the court tomorrow or today, I will have to prepare 4 or 5 hours for that case. all of you, when you graduate, complete your 4 years of education, the industry would come to you. I represent industry as well. So what do I expect from the student? One, I definitely expect readiness. When I'm saying readiness, it doesn't mean that the guy knows all the answers. But the fact that he has applied himself to what he was supposed to learn in the last 4 years. Resilience is a trait that is very important. No matter how tough it is, we will keep on going. Resourceful. Can I do something when it is required? Okay, so let me give an example. Suppose today, your dad is at the office and he gets a message that unless you make the payment by today, the electricity to your house will be cut off. Now tell me, no matter how many meetings he has, no matter whatever he has, he will rush and make sure that the payment is made, isn't it? Right? Today's world has become much easier because you can do it online. But imagine the old days, whatever it required, he will get it done. Right? Resourcefulness is that to deliver your objective, whatever needs to be done, you will get it done. And being responsible and righteous. Okay? Now let me just talk about when I'm speaking to people. To my own mind, when I'm addressing 400 people in this room, all in the prime of their youth, I have great expectations from you, personally, because I believe that this generation is much more sorted. You know a lot more than the previous generation, because in our times, we did not have access to the net, we did not have too much of access to information, we didn't know too much. But today, you have significant access, and I can do no better than to quote Swami Vivekananda. Do all of you know that the National Youth Day is celebrated on the day of his birthday? Yeah. So these are his sayings that take the whole responsibility on your shoulders. Okay? And you alone can write your own destiny. There is nobody else who can do this for you. Then the other thing that he talks about is that practice virtue. Today, we somehow don't think that it is important. We think that all that needs to be done is you need to be successful. Right? People need to be successful. These things have become a little old-fashioned. Being virtuous, doing the right thing, all these things have suddenly become very, very old-fashioned. You might even think I'm an old fuddy-duddy who is telling you this. Okay? But remember this, after 25 years, 30 years from now, if you want to sleep well, do the right thing. A clear conscience is the softest pillow at the end of the day. Always remember that. You may not appreciate it today. The second thing which I want to tell everybody here is that first of all, our young men, when I said men, I mean women as well, must be strong. It's my advice. So my advice to you would be, and I tell this to everyone, play sports, exercise, don't eat too much of junk food, eat well, sleep well, rest, don't abuse your body. These are things that are very important. Remember this, no matter what you do, this is the body that you will leave for the next couple of years. And if this becomes a trouble for you, you will have nowhere else to go. And remember this, what he said. I am saying this again and again because I find that today most people underestimate the importance of health. So what I want is muscles of iron and nerves of steel from the youth. Nothing more, nothing less. last but one slide. Okay. So, what do I expect? I want to make my expectations clear. It is up to you whether, as I said, if you want to live up to it. First is commitment to our roles. When I'm saying roles, more often than not, we define ourselves by the role that I do. For example, somebody tells me I'm a chief distribution officer of a company. That's just one of the roles that I do. I am also a father, I am also a son, I am also a husband. So, do I do all those roles beautifully? Second, reimagine as a country. I am saying this again, that these are the problems of the country and you will need to address it in whatever way you can. Our education and healthcare still needs a lot of room for improvement. As I said, that a lot of women in our country are still not educated. That needs to be done. Even today, the quality of education is not all that great, especially at a primary and a secondary level. You will be surprised, I have interacted with many students who are in standard 4 and 5, they cannot subtract by borrowing and they cannot carry. Standard 5 students, basic mathematics they can't do. Okay? Do you think, that is desirable? Climate change is real. That's one area where, I'm talking about it to you today because it's an intergenerational problem. I will not be around for the next 100 or 200 years, but you will be around, your children, your grandchildren will be around. But unless we do something about it, we will possibly kill our own planet and there is no planet B. And finally, last but not the least, invest in science and technology. Our country, which at one time used to have a lot of Nobel laureates in basic sciences, today doesn't produce that many Nobel laureates today. We don't have enough number of papers, we don't have enough number of work done in the area of science and technology. That is where students like you come in. We need original work. So all of these are expectations. Now you would say that this is a very large expectation. What do we do? How do we really do it? So my answer to that is, if I do that, how are we going to start? Yeah. So this is my last slide. As I said, since I said that we started, I have stated my expectations, a tall one, right? So my only request to you would be, start by doing what's necessary and do then what is possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible. So my best wishes to all of you as you get into your careers. Do well and may God be with you. Thank you so much for attending.
Students have so much things to take away from your particular lecture today in Masterclass. Now I request Professor G. Chandrasekhar, Dean Business School of NCU, to kindly facilitate you with a token of appreciation from the North University. Students, I request you to leave the hall in a very systematic fashion.